Great.
Welcome. This is a wonderful building. Thank you for hosting us. I clearly got a little lost getting here. So let's officially call this meeting of MACOG to order for November 9th. First, we have the roll call.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Mayor Wood for hosting us today. It's a beautiful new city hall here. I'll go ahead and read off all the names. Please let us know if you're in attendance. Councilwoman Mandy Campbell, District Deputy Commissioner Matt Deitchley, Councilperson Dwight Fish, Commissioner Deb Fleming, Councilman Doug Graham.
Here.
Commissioner Carrie Groninger, Councilwoman Kathy Groninger,
Here.
Councilwoman Lori Hammond, Councilman Greg Hicksonbaugh,
Here.
Mayor Phil Jenkins,
Here.
District Deputy Commissioner Todd Johnson,
Here.
Mayor James Mueller, Commissioner Kevin Overmeyer, Mayor Rod Robertson, Councilman Mark Root,
Here.
Mayor Mark Center, Mayor Jeremy Stutzman,
Here.
Mayor Joseph Tolmer,
Here.
Commissioner Susie Wyrick,
Here.
Mayor David Wood.
Here.
We have a quorum of members present, but we do not have enough to do virtual voting. So those that are virtual, please feel free to ask any questions or anything along those lines. You just won't be able to vote or make motions today. I'll turn it back over to you, Commissioner.
Great. Next, we have the minutes for October 12th. Any comments, corrections? Pleasure of the board.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we're going to skip over to Deb Gardner for a financial report.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So through the end of September 2022, our year-to-date expenses are a little over 1.9 million. Our cash balance at the end of September was $3,218,194.42. And our cash disbursements for the month of September was $862,458.87. Any questions? If not, I'd like to ask for board approval of the September financial report.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a first and second. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Assuming modifications? Yes. We have
I have no report.
And just as normal, the October administrative modifications were included in your packet. There's no action item needed there. It's presented for informational items only. You can find that in your packet or online.
Do we have any old business, James?
We have no old business today.
New business.
Yes, we'll turn it over to Allison Reagan to do our presentations of transportation resolutions.
Good morning, everyone. So we just have one amendment to our transportation improvement program this month, and it falls under Transportation Resolution 34-22. This is an NDOT initiated project in St. Joseph County. It is at US 6 from State Road 104 to Georgia Street in the town of Walkerton. It's an HMA overlay, a hot mix asphalt overlay. We're adding in preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction with a total cost to complete of $2.7 million. And you will note on your agenda the construction amount being added in fiscal years 24 and 25 is relatively low compared to the total cost to complete. And that is because this amount is for utility relocation, with the full construction amount being in fiscal year 2027. So our tip just goes to fiscal year 2026, hence why we're not adding the full construction amount in today. Any questions about this project? Hearing none, I would ask for your approval of Transportation Resolution 34-22.
So moved. Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good morning. Resolution 3522 is what is our disadvantaged business enterprise goal. This is referred to as a DBE. So as you know, MACOG receives federal transit funding to oversee the operation of the interurban trolley over in Elkhart and Goshen. As part of our FTA funding, when we do competitive procurements, we establish a goal across the entire program for doing business with disadvantaged businesses. And this is a federal requirement. So we go through an entire formula-based process based on what likely procurements we will have throughout this like 3-year time frame. And then there's a formula of the number of disadvantaged businesses that are likely in those NAICS code. And we try to then estimate what our likely goal is that we'll achieve. This is an area that we continue to try and improve on. But it is a little bit of a challenge in that one of the largest procurements that MACOG does is the procurement of the actual transit service. So MACOG doesn't have employees that are driving the buses. We hire a firm that actually does that. And that represents the largest procurement that we will do. And it is roughly on any given year, I think it's $3 to $4 million that we would pay to that transit service provider. There are not a lot of disadvantaged businesses that are then providing transit services or fleet services or charter services. And so this is an area that ends up being very tricky for setting a DBE goal, because although we might be able to say, have a procurement where we're able to select a firm that is a DBE for signage or for GPS, these contracts end up being very small amounts. We're talking about thousands of dollars versus a multi-million-dollar contract. And so those ratios end up being very small. And so for this 3-year period, essentially based on our formulas, what we're saying our goal is, and we have to set a goal, have to do this. Our goal, according to the formulas that we're likely to achieve, is a 0% goal. And I know that doesn't feel good. I don't enjoy that. It's just the way that the math really works out. We do always try to find ways to work with DBE firms. In our procurements, we provide additional points for DBE firms. We'll continue to see if there are ways through working through things in the future, how we might be able to do some better contracting, something that we'll continue to work on. But for a long time, FTA told us that we didn't have to include the transit services in our formula. And so we always used to set a much higher goal. There were years where we would have we would set a goal of 5%, but because of a procurement, we would be at 25%. But because FTA wants us to include that transit services RFP in our calculation, it's kind of thrown us off kilter of being able to really set a goal that we can achieve. And so we're continuing to work on this area, but for this 3-year period, what we would be presenting as our fiscal year 2023 through 2025 disadvantaged business enterprise goal is a 0%. I am happy to answer any questions. I felt like that needed an explanation before just simply presenting it as was. And so happy to answer any questions for you.
James, if you solicit a DBE contractor and they either can't do the work, do you get credit for that? And I understand with the 0%, it doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
I've got a big problem. We've got a contractor who didn't meet the DBE goal, and our project eventually got rejected after it had been bid on twice. And now here we sit without a project and only one bidder who didn't meet this.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I'm aware of that situation with the good faith effort review and not being able to meet that. That's a little bit of a different situation than what we're in. But I know that poses a challenge. We talked to NDOT and tried to advocate on behalf of the fact that this project, your specific project, had been bid multiple times. There was a singular bidder. It also felt like a higher DBE for that size of project compared to normal. And then the likelihood is that the only firm to bid again, if it is to be rebid, is the same firm that has previously bid.
As the price continues to go up.
Yeah,
We don't need to take the time, because I just, this is a real sore spot.
Yeah.
I do want to thank Todd Johnson. I called Todd about it. He did what he could, appreciate that, but even after the review, they didn't feel like there was enough good faith.
Yeah.
And here we sit.
I understand.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 3522.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Thank you. Next.
All right. Our next item is resolution exercising the first 1-year extension of an agreement for professional services with Thorne & Grodnick. A few years back, we did a competitive procurement for legal services. Thorne & Grodnick was selected, and that relationship to date has gone exceptionally well. Mike Triple is here from Thorne & Grodnick today, as he is at all of our board meetings. In that original agreement, the original agreement was from January 2020 through December of 2022. But it did also include 2 optional 1-year extensions based on the level of service, the quality of service, and the care of service. The staff would be recommending exercising that first 1-year option to do an extension with Thorne & Grodnick. Happy to answer any questions. If there are any, I'm happy to try to answer any of those questions. If not, we'd be asking for your approval of resolution 3622.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is endorsement for an update to the MACOG job descriptions. I have been working on a lengthier update to our job descriptions. We are working on some restructuring of staff positions. But I was having some formatting challenges and couldn't produce the full document in time for the agenda. So we will have some larger updates presented next month. But the one that I did want to get completed today, if the board so chooses to complete it, was to add in the job description that's printed before you in your packet, which is for a senior transportation planner. This would be a new job description that's not currently in our descriptions. This would be a more senior level transportation position. We just don't have a position right now in our descriptions that kind of matches that role. And we do have the need based on where some of our staff are performing to move them into a more senior role. And so I wanted to get that included as that one had been completed. The other descriptions will be presented to you next month. That included some restructuring of some roles, as well as some just cleaning up language and formatting and those kind of items. But wanted to get this presented to you so that we could get this moving forward. I'm happy to answer any questions related to this update to the job descriptions.
I'm just curious on the pay range. It's pretty broad, about $30,000 difference from top to bottom. So I'm just curious what factors in there.
Yeah, I think it's the experience level would factor into that. We are also trying to increase some of our pay ranges. And so you'll see some increases presented next month across the board as, just what we're being asked by entry-level candidates to be the new kind of base level of compensation. So we're trying to not only increase our the lower end of our scale, but also the top end of our scale for those that have those experiences. Part of it is the flexibility based on where someone is at, but also providing them room for growth as well. So it's not completely hey, congratulations, you've been promoted into a senior level, and now you've immediately hit a ceiling on your pay as well. So that gives that person those persons opportunities to grow in responsibilities as well as pay throughout.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Our presentation today, we wanted to give you an update as the Connect Transit Plan has reached a new kind of step in the process. And so we have some initial information that we're going to share with you. But so I'll turn it over to Jeremiah to present.
Good morning, everyone. So first, I'm here to just give a brief update on our draft plan engagement. So first, here we are now with the Connect Transit Plan. So in the last round of engagement, more than 140 people attended 5 open house events, and that in addition, we interacted with a lot more additional members of the public at our pop-up events. And so right now, we're currently have a draft plan report that we're currently drafting, and we hope to be releasing that next month. And I'm going to just give a brief summary on where that plan kind of has landed based on your recommendations. So first, at the September policy board meeting, you might remember you basically asked us to design a new transit network with 70% based on the coverage concept, 70% ridership, 30% coverage. And this network that we'll present in the draft will be quite similar to this concept, and basically includes what we can do with our existing resources, plus the 2 new buses in Goshen. And this we would be looking to implement very, very soon, as some of the items might be as soon as the plan's adopted. A few others might as soon as we're able to get buses to adequately be able to provide service on those 2 new buses for Goshen. And then the second half of the draft plan will be an additional funding network, which is based both on the guidance and then staff conversation as we were designing this plan. And this plan will show it will be possible with an 80% increase in funding. And this will be done kind of with a menu of options, including how much improvements like Sunday service, evening service, and route extensions and improvements, kind of giving us kind of an a la carte idea. If additional funding is available, this is what we could do with that funding in different ways, depending upon kind of guidance and other support for the transit plan. And this plan overall will be slightly less than the growth concept we showed in the last round, with 115%. We ended up bringing that down to be a bit more realistic. If everything in the plan got, we were able to get funding for it, we got an 80% increase in transit service. And then I just want to make sure everyone's aware of a lot of engagement opportunities that are coming up. On December 5th, we'll be releasing the draft plan, which will be on our website. We'll be opening a new online survey for the draft plan. We'll start putting ads up on the buses. We'll follow up with everyone we've already been talking to, continuing social media engagement. And then I do want to emphasize that there will be a much broader update at next month's board meeting on December 14th. And then the Transfield board will be briefed on the South Bend, St. Joseph County, Mishawaka updates at their November 21st board meeting, which will be kind of when we'll start really promoting this more to the public than we are now. And then I want to just invite everyone to a stakeholder meeting. We'll have a stakeholder advisory workshop on December 8th, which will kind of kick off this engagement strategy. And this is a workshop where we're inviting various stakeholders from the region, and really especially those of you that are representing transit communities in the MACOG region. This could be a very helpful workshop for you to really kind of see on a high level the support and kind of where we are going with the transit plan. And then finally, I want to mention some other engagement events. We're going to kick this off with a virtual public meeting, and then a community leaders virtual event. And then the second week of January, there will be 4 open houses. I just realized we don't actually have the dates, but they're between about January 8th and 11th. Just every night for 1 week, we'll be doing Monday through Thursday open houses at basically the main downtown public libraries for each of the 4 major transit served communities to present this draft plan and solicit feedback from the public. And then after that, we will go back and have a final plan, with the goal of that final plan being presented at the March policy board meeting. So then we can go start making these transit changes. And now back to you, Alan. Unless you have any
I was just saying, any questions?
Any questions?
Looks like you're off scot-free.
Sorry.
All right.
Back to you.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Okay, so I'm actually going to be giving all of the staff updates today. It's a little hour show. Okay, so first wanted to walk through just some funding opportunities that are currently available. I'm going to highlight 3 NDOT funding opportunities and then 2 federal opportunities. So the first is NDOT's roll call for projects. So funding is available for projects outside of our urbanized area. And eligible projects include any new projects, so any bridge, road, safety, sidewalk, trail type projects. And funding is available for all phases, with construction to be bid in fiscal year 2028, so as early as July of 2027. And then the plan is for awards to be announced around the February timeframe. So applications for this are due December 2nd. Happy to provide any assistance where we can with this. And then the second opportunity, NDOT will be issuing a notice of funding availability for bridge preventative maintenance type projects. So for example, bridge deck overlays. This is a new program. It doesn't include structural or operational improvements. It's just for preventative maintenance. And this application, like I said, will open January 2nd. But for communities to be eligible, you must have an NDOT approved bridge asset management plan by December 16th. I will note that NDOT approved asset management plans are slightly different than the normal LTAP approved bridge asset management plans, like to make things extra complicated. So NDOT does have a lot of guidance on their website about what qualifies as an NDOT approved asset management plan. But if any of our counties are interested in pursuing this and need help working through this, definitely available to help with that. And then the final funding opportunity is one we're all familiar with. So the NDOT's Community Crossings Matching Grant Program, which focuses on local road and bridge preservation. So this will open January 3rd and be open for the entire month of January. And to be eligible, LPAs must have an approved pavement asset management plan by December 1st. So we're currently helping several communities put their asset management plans together, but again, available to provide assistance if anyone needs help working through their pavement asset management plan. So again, asset management plans due December 1st, and then community crossings will open January 3rd.
Can I ask you a question on those? With the change in expenses and costs associated with any of these paving programs, have any of the matches or anything started to shift?
No.
Of course not. Okay.
Yeah, as I say, community crossings match is written into state law.
Yeah, but you know, we all seen that change.
It'd be something to talk with your legislators about this next legislative
And they're
session.
hearing it, so
Yep.
I wouldn't doubt, but that
Yeah.
it'll come up in discussion down during session.
I would say one thing with that is encouraging communities in their asset management plans, specifically with the 5-year treatment plan, to update their there are numbers.
The one nice thing for counties too is that in the previous item that Allison presented, that local bridge preventive maintenance program, that wasn't a thing, right? So you couldn't do preventive maintenance with 80/20 funds, with federal 80/20 funds. And so this does open up a new option for counties to maintain bridges. So it is a new offering. It is not changing the match. It's still 80/20, but it is a new offering. So it is an option for counties.
I'm actually a little bit more concerned for some of the smaller communities within the county that, I mean, I think the county is actually okay and still managing fine. I'm worried about some of the smaller communities and their ability to actually receive and succeed with these projects.
There was also a pressure on the legislature, given the price of gas, to eliminate or lower or suspend the gas
Gas tax.
tax, and they resisted that, which directly feeds this program. So, yeah.
So high level, we have the NDOT roll call open. The bridge preventative maintenance is opening soon. And then the community crossings grant, which most everyone's familiar with. So keep an eye on all of those. And then moving into some federal grant opportunities. So first we have the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Grant. So the purpose of this program is to improve railroad safety, efficiency, and reliability, mitigate congestion, enhance multimodal connections, or even create new intercity passenger rail transportation corridors. So there's a wide range of projects that are eligible under this program. Some few specifics that they called out in the NOFO that I thought would be good for our region: highway rail grade crossing improvements, rail corridor development plans, the employment of railroad safety technologies. So lots of different projects that could be eligible both at the planning phase and the construction phase. There's no max or min award amount for this grant, but I will note that $376 million or 25% of appropriations for this program must be spent on rural projects. So I do think there's some potential here. And the due date for this grant application is December 1st. So have any specific questions about this? Happy to talk afterwards. And then, sorry, the second one is the SMART grant. So the Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation grant. So this one is focused on advancing smart community technologies and systems in order to improve transportation efficiency. So some specific project areas that fall under this grant would be improving traffic signals, coordinating automation, sensor-based infrastructure. So one specific project they called out in the NOFA would be the use of sensors to enhance infrastructure inspection and asset management processes. So again, with this one, there's no max or min award amounts, but I will note there's a quick turnaround with this grant. So it's actually due the end of next week, so November 18th. So if this sounds like something that might fit a project you have, happy to help where we can. So any questions, comments about any of the funding opportunities? I know it's a lot of dates and numbers. Okay. Well, happy to talk afterwards if anyone has any questions. So then wanted to kind of switch focus, move away from our grants and funding and talk about some of our plans and programs. So wanted to touch base on our annual listing of obligated projects report for fiscal year 2022. So as I mentioned last month, as an MPO, we are required to produce an annual listing of projects for which federal funds have been obligated. And we're required to produce this within 90 days of when the fiscal year changes. So the state fiscal year began in July, so we had until September to produce this listing. So this listing is on our website, done, it's complete. We've checked off that requirement. But one thing we like to do at MACOG is produce a summary report that analyzes some of the obligations and just provides a better picture of what funding was invested in our region for that fiscal year. So I'm going to walk through a few numbers from the report, hoping to have the report published on our website by the end of this month, but just wanted to pull out some interesting figures. And I guess before diving into the figures, just taking a step back. So an obligation can be thought of as the federal government's commitment to pay their federal share of a project. So for FTA projects, obligations occur when the FTA grant is awarded, whereas for federal highway projects, obligations occur when the project agreement has been executed and the state or MACOG agrees to commit those funds, so through a FEMAS request. And when we're talking about obligations, we're talking about all phases. So we can talk about an obligation for preliminary engineering, right of way, or construction. So if we look at figure 1 here, so within the MACOG region, there was $37 million obligated in fiscal year 2022. So figure 1 shows the total obligations in the MACOG region by sponsoring agency. So you'll see that there were roughly $23 billion obligated for local projects, about 14.6 obligated for transit projects, and then a very small amount, which you can even see, for state projects. This is not to say that the state did not invest anything in our region through the entire fiscal year 2022. What this largely means is that projects were funded with state funding rather than federal funding. So again, when we're talking about these numbers, we're just talking about federal dollars. So then looking at figure 2, so we're taking that local amount, that $23 million, and breaking it down by county. So you'll see that for Elkhart County, about 50% of obligations. For St. Joe, it's about 21% of obligations. Marshall was 17%, and Kosciuszko was 12%. And like I mentioned, we're talking about obligations for all different phases. So this figure is really dependent on how projects fall. So for example, for Elkhart County, half of those obligations came from the construction phase of the Golden Avenue reconstruction. So this is not to say that we prioritize Elkhart County or the state prioritizes Elkhart County more than any other county. It's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. I think last year St. Joseph County had the largest share of this pie. And then the final figure here. So taking that $23 million in local obligations and breaking it down by project type. So you'll see that of those obligations, there were 7 local road projects for a total obligation of $9.1 million. For bridge, there were 7 projects for a total of $5 million. For intersections, there were 2 projects for a total of $2.9. For safety, there were 4 projects for a total of $2 million. Bike and pedestrian, there were 8 projects, which this number, it's not normally that bike and ped is the highest number of projects. And I think one reason for this is that Marshall County was designated as a stellar community back in 2019. And with that came funding for sidewalk and trail type projects. So in fiscal year 2022, a lot of the preliminary engineering for those projects got started. So that's why there's such a high number of bike ped projects. And that number is $3.1 million. And then finally, for traffic signals, there was 1 project for $1 million. That was the South Bend Flashing Beacons project. So any questions on some of these numbers? And exciting stuff. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope, I got those.
Privilege of the floor.
Yep.
Anybody wish to add anything to privilege of the floor? Do we have anything submitted?
Just like to say thank you for coming here. Just give you a little bit of info about this building. We just opened within the last couple of weeks, got everybody moved in. This is actually a city hall, police department, and utilities headquarters. We are dedicating the building this Friday at 4 o'clock if you want to attend that. It is, if you've seen some of the work downstairs as you were walking in, they're installing a piece of the USS Arizona that sank Pearl Harbor. We secured that piece. We will have it on permanent display here. They're constructing a display case for it now, so we're pretty excited to have that. But if anybody wants a quick tour afterwards, I'll be more than happy to give one.
Thank you. And thank you again for hosting us. Yes, sir.
I just had a little bit of information on US 30 and US 31. The Pell study has begun. They're starting meetings this week with coalition stakeholders, followed by community stakeholders. They've created office hours at various locations, and they'll be starting their public meetings. My guess is after the first of the year. They're doing a lot online and with Zoom. I think what they're trying to do is establish the location of those folks that are taking their time to make comment. I think it helps them analyze a little bit better, but there will be, of course, in-person meetings as well. To that end, propelus30.com or propelus31.com are the websites that have been set up. Those websites are established for you to make public comment on those websites. That information needs to get out to your constituents. So those websites are accepting comments now. And, this is the time that NDOT will listen. What we've been told is they're going to come up with, at least for US 30, they're going to come up with a no build option, a freeway option, and a couple options in between. But they're not going to have a preference either. They're just going to list those 4 options. And then going into the EIS, they will determine which of those options will be utilized. So it's finally happening, and would encourage you to get on these websites, get this information out to your constituents for both, again, propelus30.com and propelus31.com. Questions?
So I checked on those websites, and I'm kind of curious. I know I sent you an email, but I haven't had time to follow up with it. The area that's displayed on the website, is that it? Is that the parameters, or because it looked like
they're still under construction. They're relatively new. I know when they came out, they were just kind of bare bones.
Yeah, I think the other question was about certain areas are exempted from the study. And those areas that were exempted from the study tend to be areas that have programmed projects already. So on US 30, you have the Flaw Road area, and there's a number of projects that are already.
We were told Flaw Road was the only one that was carved out of that.
And that's what I was alluding to. And then on US 31, one that was carved out of it would be US 31 at State Road 10,
Right.
because it has a programmed project. And really, since those projects already have been programmed and are moving forward, we really don't need them to be included in the study. NDOT's already making an investment and have made those decisions around those investment levels. I don't know that we want to open it up to reconsidering those investment levels.
Okay.
If anything, in any of those projects, we'd love to see them accelerated, not necessarily reconsidered. So I think that's why you see certain areas that are kind of carved out of the study, if you will.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I'm sorry. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Good question.
Any other privilege of the floor? And I'm assuming we did not receive public comment, or do we have public comment?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't see any folks here to public comment, but none online as well, so.
All right, I would entertain a
So
motion.
moved.
Yeah, wait.
Oh, no, I was just stretching.
Oh, okay. So we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second that.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for stretching again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Oh, now it's stretching.